Hi, welcome back to Guessagaingaming. So here I am back in Watch Dogs Legion in a very nondescript alleyway, story of my life. So actually we're not far from Waterloo, which is a big famous train station in London, just on the south bank. So we're in a relatively well-known area, but I've come to this alley to make the video to make it in peace and quiet without any distractions of people walking past. There's a lot of people in the distance look like they're going to walk past. Anyway, so today I'm just going to make a very small video about something I saw on Steam to do with Watch Dogs Legion, because I was just glancing through various bits and pieces of community comments, and one of the things that I came across quite regularly in some of the comments on Steam about Watch Dogs Legion was that people didn't like it, and I'm already aware of the main reason people didn't like it, and it's almost always to do with it's not like other games he played. So I don't think many people have really got much to say that's wrong with the story. I'm not saying you have to love the story, but there's many games people don't like the story of. So if you don't like the story, you don't, but it's not a thing that I saw as a theme in the criticism of the game. Equally, the gameplay and things like that, I've not seen that as a criticism. Actually, there's a lot of people saying that the melee and that was very good, which I find it is too. But the criticisms which I've known about, which I've seen often, is one, that you don't just get to play as one character, which I'll touch on again in another video, I think, because I think, again, that's very unimaginative of people. But the other thing, which I noticed come up a lot, which I hadn't really seen before, because I've not really gone into all these comments on Steam, is that you didn't get to have your own house or have your own car. And I was kind of looking at these and I thought, because it's kind of almost like some people are so tunnel visioned with how games are. Cyberpunk, for example, is an obvious comparison in what they were saying, that they can't step out of the fact that, you know, you don't get your own car and you don't need to get your own house in every game. I mean, you don't get your own house in Witcher, really. You don't get your own car in Witcher, for that matter. You get a horse. There's plenty of games, certainly back into the history of gaming and RPGs, where you don't get your own house and you don't get your own car. I'm not just talking about games where they're fantasy and they don't have the option of cars, but there's lots of games where you don't get that, and it is what it is. So I think it was it's very narrow-minded and unimaginative of people to criticise a game that just hasn't got a trope that's in some games, because it wouldn't fit in this game. And it's not because, and the reason I'm defending it is not because I love the game, it's Watch Dogs Legion, that's part of the reason, of course. It's because in this game it wouldn't fit, and the fact that people said that is just stupid, because it's not they didn't put that in this game because it would be too much for them, or they were lazy, or they couldn't be bothered. Obviously, because in this game you're playing as many different agents, not one person, you wouldn't have your own house. You have the DedSec hideout where you go and all the DedSec members are, but of course you wouldn't have your own house because you're playing as multiple different agents. It wouldn't make any sense to have your own house. Even if you were kind of using one agent a lot, it wouldn't make sense that they could just go and buy a house. It wouldn't make any sense to the game. And you're not playing that kind of game when you would have a house and have your equipment in a house, as in Cyberpunk and things like that. So it makes no sense. And the same with the car argument. You are playing as multiple agents. You can go out and you can acquisition any car you want. There's some really nice, cool cars in this game, actually. I'd say as cool as the ones in Cyberpunk, and there's lots of motorcycles. They're not as super cool as the ones in Cyberpunk, but then it's meant to be in relatively modern day London, so they wouldn't be fancy sci-fi ones, but there's some very nice motorcycles. There's some really cool cars, they're like Aston Martins and things, but they're not named as Aston Martins. They've done a good job with that. And you could even use a boat on the River Thames. But of course, if you're playing as multiple agents, you wouldn't have your own car. It wouldn't make sense. So the criticism is not only narrow-minded and stupid, it will be stupid in any game, because every game can't just have the same thing. Oh, you've got your own house, you can make your own you've got your own car. That would be boring if all games are the same. But also, in this game specifically, it would make absolutely no sense to the game. And the fact that people criticised that and went into this game thinking, oh, I've not got my own house, or oh, I can't get my own car, knowing what the game was to start with, because they knew it was about multiple characters, and having been in the game and seeing how it plays, it's just really frustrating that people would criticise the game for something like that, which is something that if it was in the game, I would be criticising. Why would one agent have their own house? Then what, every agent's going to have their own house and car? It would just be crazy. It wouldn't work. So if you're going to criticise a game, criticise it because you didn't like the story, but don't criticise it because of the way the game is, it doesn't have that. It'd be like saying The Witcher doesn't have a helicopter. Well, of course he doesn't. He's playing in that universe where there's no helicopter. He doesn't have a machine gun. He doesn't have any gun mods and grenades. He has some grenades, but they're herbal kind of gas grenade kind of things. But it's the same thing. You can't criticise the game for what wouldn't make sense in the game. Anyway, that's my little Watch Dogs Legion rant. And I just thought it was something I wanted to say because I've often seen people didn't like that. Hang on, this woman's just decided to attack me for no reason. So we're going to... Actually, we'll just run away. I don't have the time for that. The reason I ran away is not because I couldn't take her. It's because if I beat her up in a public place, she would... it would possibly attract the attention of the police or Albion, and I didn't want to be bothered fighting and chasing them during this video. Anyway, that was fun. It's actually part of Watch Dogs Legion. We're coming to the end of the video, but one of the things is, yeah, these interactions with random people. I don't know whether that person was someone who didn't like the fact I was standing in her space, or whether she was someone that I'd previously had an interaction with, because I think I made a video a little while ago where this character, who I've played since the beginning of the game, who is one of my original agents, has done a lot of things, and the other NPCs remember, so maybe it's someone I've come across. In this game, actually, just to continue, as I wind down the video, I've actually completed the game, really. I've done the Bagley memories, I've done all the main missions. I finished it, really. There's a few borough missions I didn't do, or I might get around to doing, but I've completed it. So I'm just playing this as a kind of let me just mess around on occasion. I just come into the game and do some random 404 missions and recruit and get rid of different agents just to mess around. So this game's kind of a finish, but yeah. Anyway, it was a little distraction. So thanks for watching Guessagaingaming. Thanks for listening to my Guessagaingaming rant supporting Watch Dogs Legion. Like I was saying before that woman decided to attack me, happy he's not going to attack me as well. Yeah, if you're going to criticise a game, then criticise it because of something that the game does badly, not because it's something that wouldn't be in the game anyway and wouldn't make any sense, because that is you, that's your problem. If you can't accept a game that's different because there's something in it that you find in other games and it isn't in the game you've bought, that doesn't mean the game's bad, it just means it's a different game, especially it wouldn't fit in the game. Anyway, thanks for watching Guessagaingaming. Till next time, take care for now.